Mjolnir. Mjolnir remains as Thor's most iconic and all-powerful weapon. Serving as his trusty companion, Mjolnir was forged in the heart of a dying star by dwarven blacksmiths, who were commissioned to create the weapon by Odin. In fact, it was Odin who supplied the mystical metal Uru after trapping a sentient superstorm within the material and placing the worthiness enchantment on it. Though originally meant to be wielded by Thor, the powerful hammer has been used by both Odin and Thor's sister Hela. In fact, Hela would go on to use the hammer for her own violent conquest, but her bloodlust proved to be too dangerous for Asgard. So Odin took away Mjolnir from his eldest daughter and sealed it away. Eventually, Odin decided the hammer would be passed down to his son Thor. Known for its incredible strength and unwavering loyalty, Mjolnir is not only a weapon for Thor but a companion, a mighty hammer that always returns to the son of Odin without fail. Mjolnir is a symbol of royalty in Asgard, a weapon that dictates who is worthy enough to cast down death on their enemies. This is precisely why one of Thor's most iconic showdowns while using Mjolnir occurs when he confronts his grandfather Bor. As an ancient Skyfather, Bor possessed terrifying raw powers, but under the madness-inducing spell of Loki, the old man was even more dangerous. Forced to use the full might of Mjolnir, Thor had no choice but to strike down his grandfather mercilessly. Invincible, destructive, and yet ultimately nothing in the face of a god. Hela would end up crushing Mjolnir with her bare fingers after catching it with one hand. The once mighty hammer is reduced to fragments, and Thor is forced to forge another one of his most iconic weapons, Stormbreaker. Stormbreaker is a legendary hammer-axe hybrid created by Thor himself after he lost his beloved Mjolnir. In search of a powerful weapon, Thor headed to the dwarven realm of Nidavellir with Rocket Raccoon and Groot, where they met the dwarf king Eitri. Since Eitri wanted to create a weapon worthy of a king, he forged another weapon out of Uru metal, using the heat of a dying star. Just as the weapon is ready, Eitri realizes he doesn't have a suitable handle for the blade, so Groot ends up sacrificing his own arm to create a shaft that could lift up the mighty axe. Although, in the comics, Stormbreaker was originally created by Odin for a Corbinite champion known as Beta Ray Bill, the weapon has primarily been used by Thor within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. With Stormbreaker at the ready, Thor is able to summon the Bifrost itself, traveling through the cosmos in the blink of an eye. While in the heat of the battle, the axe proves even more fearsome. Withstanding the full force of the Infinity Stones, Stormbreaker not only remains intact, but sharper as ever. Mimicking the will of its wielder, Stormbreaker pierces through the Mad Titan's chest, ultimately cutting his head off. However, despite Stormbreaker proving itself as a legendary axe, the broken pieces of the original Mjolnir remained volatile and served a new purpose as well. Cracked Mjolnir, Jane Foster. The cracked Mjolnir is a fascinating hammer forged from the remains of the original weapon. After Mjolnir was destroyed, the shattered pieces were collected and placed within a museum in New Asgard. However, when Jane Foster visited the Mjolnir exhibition, her presence triggered the shattered weapon to reforge once more. In reality, Jane was suffering from stage 4 cancer, and the broken hammer could sense that she was in danger. Since Thor placed an enchantment on the hammer to always protect Jane Foster, the shattered pieces fulfilled this enchantment and merged with each other. The cracked Mjolnir was forged solely for Jane Foster, and she is the only one to ever wield it. Fast, versatile, and downright terrifying. The cracked Mjolnir can split itself apart into dozens of sharp shards, ruthlessly piercing through enemies. The head of the hammer then reforms again, making it a formidable weapon. With this mighty power in her hand, Jane would go on to obliterate the Necrosword, securing a victory for Thor against Gore the God Butcher. Jane then stores fragments of the sword within her own hammer, and summons powerful lightning to destroy Mjolnir, with the evil pieces trapped within it. Truly a hammer that remained loyal until the very end. While Mjolnir signals the end of Jane's journey, it is only a small part of Thor's own long history. And in his youth, the god of thunder had an entirely different weapon, Jarnbjorn. Jarnbjorn is a lightweight battle axe created by the dwarves in Nidavellir. This razor-sharp weapon was primarily used for training and combat by a younger and arrogant Thor. Since Thor was still learning how to be a fearless, noble king for Asgard, he was not yet worthy to wield Mjolnir. This is why he made use of the Jarnbjorn instead. Crafted from Asgardian steel, the Jarnbjorn is basically indestructible and immune to most damage. Tainted by Thor's blood, Jarnbjorn is the epic weapon that allows Thor to bring down a god. The razor-sharp head of the battle axe pierced through the celestial Exitar, diminishing the cosmic entity to nothingness. In Thor's hands, Jarnbjorn was more than just a training axe, it was a world-splitting weapon of destruction. Although Thor picked up Mjolnir after proving his worthiness, this status would change quickly once Thor learned the truth about the gods. While speaking to Nick Fury, who absorbed knowledge from the Watcher, Thor learns that the gods are indeed selfish and dangerous for the universe. Hearing this made Thor strip himself of his title and be known as Odinson instead. During this time, Thor returned back to Jarnbjorn, choosing his old weapon to fight once more. However, even in his state of unworthiness, Thor would end up finding another version of Mjolnir that actually prefers the unworthy. Unworthy Mjolnir. The unworthy Mjolnir was discovered by Thor after encountering an evil version of himself known as Thor, an evil counterpart to the god of thunder. While remaining largely the same, the unworthy Mjolnir had an inverted enchantment. It could only be used by those who lacked goodness and nobility within them. Since Thor was no longer worthy after learning the truth about the gods, he was able to lift the wicked version of Mjolnir. But this version of Mjolnir is not the only dark version of the noble weapon. In fact, a Venom symbiote would create a version of Mjolnir that is even more destructive. Symbiote Mjolnir. The symbiote Mjolnir, also known as Helnir or the Devil's Hammer, is a crimson dark cursed weapon. This hammer was forged when a Venom symbiote infected Darkoth, the Death Demon, and used his powers to forge the cursed weapon. With the help of the dark powers, the symbiote was able to use promethium metal to mimic Mjolnir and its abilities. The Helnir has been wielded by Darkoth the Death Demon when he first fused with the symbiote. Later on, the dark residue of the symbiote leaked into the torture chamber, where Donald Blake was held captive. The symbiote turned Blake into a monster, allowing him to wield Helnir as Thor's dark counterpart. Raw, deadly, and completely cursed, Helnir lived up to its name as the Devil's Hammer. Commanding hellfire and dark energy, this twisted weapon brought the god of thunder himself to his knees. In fact, Helnir is so repulsed by Mjolnir, it actually caused the original hammer to bleed golden blood after they collided against each other. Helnir's most legendary fight was against Thor himself. Resenting his imprisonment, Blake used Helnir to completely overpower a weakened Thor, even going as far as blinding the god of thunder. But Helnir is not the only hammer to challenge the original vision and symbol of Mjolnir. Ultimate Cosmic Mjolnir. The Ultimate Cosmic Mjolnir was built using technology created by the European Defense Initiative. This version of the hammer was created on Earth 1610, the ultimate version of the Marvel Universe. Created for Thorleif Gullman, the ultimate version of Thor, the Cosmic Mjolnir is a powerhouse, an absolute beast compared to the original hammer. Instead of relying on mysticism to draw out its power, this beast of a weapon is equipped with an internal high-output generator. This insane generator has the same output as a nuclear bomb, making use of electromagnetic fields to create weather patterns and teleport all over the universe. Thorleif would go on to use the Cosmic Mjolnir against Loki. With the hammer's energy manipulation by his side, Thorleif is able to make light work of Thor and his army of monsters, saving the city of New York from the multi-universal threat. But there is another version of Mjolnir that is so powerful, it transforms Thor into a cosmic entity. Phoenix Mjolnir. The Phoenix Mjolnir, an absolutely insane, mind-numbingly complex hammer with godly powers. Fused with the ancient entity known as Phoenix Force, the Phoenix Mjolnir is a world-ending, destructive force that turned Thor from a god to a cosmic being. In the far future, a powerful version of Doctor Doom threatens to attack Earth. In order to defeat this menace, King Thor, who is now the ultimate ruler of Asgard, and Wolverine, who is fused with the Phoenix Force, join forces. However, Doom is able to strike down Wolverine, leaving Thor to handle the situation on his own. In order to make the most of his demise, Wolverine unleashes the Phoenix Force within him, and it directly fuses with Mjolnir. What ends up following is an epic showdown where Thor lifts the newly fused hammer and transforms into King Phoenix, a galaxy-scale entity. With the Phoenix Mjolnir in hand, Thor turns into a mind-numbing cosmic entity. The power of the Phoenix and his own divinity merge together to create King Phoenix. The hammer is a symbol of universal power over life and death itself. With the fiery, godly hammer in hand, Thor fights a war with Doctor Doom that lasts for 99 years.